Nigerians and wonderful fans of living television. Good there. We are back again today on your favorite program, Issues of the Moment. In today's Issues of the Moment, we're going to look at just two major topics that are in Nigeria today. One, Chicago State University obeys court order, releases Tinubu'S records. Organized labor, that is NLC and TUC, suspend planned nationwide strike over removal of fuel subsidy. These and many more things we'll be looking at today. As usual, in today's lessons, we have a wonderful analyst in the house. I'm talking about a practicing lawyer here in Aba and also a security consultant. He's also a public affairs analyst. Barrister Chukwemeka Wong. Barrister, welcome to the program.
Thank you, moderator, and good day, viewers.
All right. Council, I'm sure you've had the much discussed issue concerning Tinubu'S record at the Chicago State University. Finally, these records have been released, and I'm sure you've been opportune to go through it. And then I don't know if you have findings concerning it.
Well, let me start by saying that the information now out of the public domain is not really new. Before now, there have been insinuations and allegations to that effect that the present Chief driver of Nigeria lacks the necessary necessary credentials that he has so much touted and boasted about. First class in this, first class in that, certificate from this place and that place, and so on. And this would not be the first time people are making some moves to hound him into getting those documents public. Recall also that I think it was the Chief Gani Fahimi who had tried to do that several years ago, before his demise, I think, yes. Trying to get a prosecution for forgery. So it's not new. Everybody knew Atiku was aiming at. The only thing is that Atiku wanted it to now come officially from that particular institution before seeking for those documents. Definitely had copies, or his lawyers had copies available. But like somebody might be quick to say, did it come from proper custody and so on? You could throw it, somebody would throw it with the wave of the hand. That wasn't what he wanted. He wanted the only place to say so authoritatively.
That was it, and that is Chicago State University, and now it's been done. It's also important to note that unlike what would have happened here in Nigeria, where some mischief makers would have used all kinds of applications to stop the school from releasing the document, or even if there is a court order to stop the school to make it public, people would have procured a counter or contrary court orders stopping that. But it's instructive to know that after the magistrate court in the US ordered the institution to release the document, Chief driver quickly made some efforts, desperate moves, to ensure that the documents were not made public. He even deposed that it will ruin his life. He said it will do irreparable damage to him. I think he went from shopping to 2 courts and still failed to get them to stop the revelation. And they ruled that, look, go on course. and then that has been done. So that is instructive and quite entertaining, because Nigeria has actually come through again as a theater of the absurd, for which we have been known, especially in recent times. We are now the laughing stock of the Committee of Nations in the international community. We are now the laughing stock. There's something I said to you earlier, a priest in Germany, praying for the thing to be resolved. That was before the revelation came. So it's really terrible.
All right. We're going to take just about 2 minutes off to in one of our analysts who just arrived. We will be back shortly, about 2 minutes or less than that. I'm glad you're still there. Like I said, just a few seconds for us to usher in one of our analysts who just arrived. Okay, we are moving on. Remember, we are discussing the Chicago State University that obeys the court order and has released Tinubu'S records. And having said that, I am one of our analysts who came in, a historian, a political affairs analyst, and a public affairs analyst. He's also a tele-evangelist. Comrade Nnamdi Lekwachi. Comrade, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me. Such an honor to be here.
All right, moving on. Counsel, there was something you just said, but from that same Chicago State University, to whom it may concern, from the university, they said, please be advised that Bola Ahmed Tinubu attended Chicago State University from August 1977 through June 1979. And he majored in accounting and was awarded a Bachelor of Science in Business Administration with honors on June 22nd, 1979. Now, from what you have said, what would you say about this letter? Sincerely, Office of the Registrar.
There is no doubt that a Bola A. Tinubu, Bola A. Tinubu, attended Chicago State University. There is absolutely no doubt about that. there is even very strong indication that that Bola Tinubu that eventually graduated is the current president of Nigeria. There are indicators to that effect. That is not where the problem is. The problem actually lies at the point of entry. The qualifying documents used by the said person who subsequently graduated, that the original document, a certificate of, I think, a school here in Nigeria, and then the person offered admission, it is insinuated or suggested, mind you, that the person was female. That is where the problem now begins to manifest. Because the last time we are informed, our dear president is male. And if he had started, if he is one and the same person that was offered admission then in Chicago State University as a female, at what point did he move from being female to male? I'm not aware that our president is transgender. Neither am I aware that he is a hermaphrodite. God forbid, because we have not been told any of these two. But the documents released suggest that the person given admission by Chicago State University was female. And so the insinuation further, the inference being drawn, is that somebody might have been guilty of, though not yet proved in a court, guilty of identity theft, whereby you use one person's, people do it, even here in Nigeria, and get away with it. Use people's certificates, gain admission, somewhere along the line you now try to do a change of name or whatever. All previous documents remain valid and so on and so forth. So that is what we are facing. Also, the school is required to do a verification, either by way of an affidavit or oral testimony, either deposition or oral testimony in court, in furtherance of the revelation, to explain further and establish the things therein. So they are not yet true there. That's the point being made. More revelations will come in the hours, minutes, days, and probably weeks ahead while we wait.
All right, comrade.
Okay, sorry, let me tidy it up before comrade. Yes. Also, the issue of he's having passed through, which school is that now? In no, the secondary school in Lagos.
Okay.
Government college.
Government college,
Yes. And he said he graduated from there in 1970. The certificate he has. But the people who started the school have established that the school did not come on board till 1974. So these are the things that Nigerians, members of the international community, and everybody, they are interested in unraveling. Everything about Oga seems to be shrouded in some mystery or controversy. I think we, being the electorate, we are owed that duty and responsibility of telling us. You can tell us anything, it doesn't matter, but tell us something. Explain how you moved from female to male. Explain how you graduated from a school before the school was set up and things like that.
All right, comrade. I'm sure you are not divorcing the fact that there are miracles. That God can change a man from being a man to a woman.
That is what I am saying. God can do. I have never doubted the ability of God. That is why you have miracle when it becomes supernatural. However, God still works within certain ambits. And then if it is a miracle, tell us it's a miracle. the miracles recorded in the Bible, we were told they are miracles, and we were informed how they came about. So let's be availed that information.
Okay, comrade, you heard what the lawyer said, and then on your own part, talking about this, whom it may concern for Bola A. Tinubu, there is no specification whether she is a he or she here. So
or it.
Or it. So what's your take on this one?
Well, I think the moment I begin to feel that things might bode in was when the team or the team of the president said revelation of further information concerning the person that graduated from Chicago State University in 1979, whose record the president asserted belonged to him. You understand? When they say that releasing more information about it may cause harm to the president, and I wouldn't know why all of us, I think, will pass through these institutions. I don't. You don't even need my consent to go to my university to inquire whether I pass through there or not. And I do not think it's a rocket science, except where there is something mystery. You understand? And then I think again, it's about integrity test, because I have never believed that we'll be where we are now. And what do I mean? What I simply mean is that if you say that something exists, you give it a name. If you say you pass through this particular academic environment or institution, the record should not be a problem. You understand? Especially now that the judiciary, to an extent, lowered the bar by saying someone who has attempted, not even whether they passed or not. You understand? So the qualification now is attempt. You remember very well the case of former president.
No. No, they brought it lower than that.
They brought it lower than that.
Affidavit, just depose to an affidavit. Just depose to an affidavit.
So I wouldn't know why this also is becoming naughty. But there's something about it. I want to say this, and it's my personal opinion. In the 70s and 80s, through the 90s, except now you have the age of internet revolution or internet of things, falsification, or in fact to even impersonate. People were using people's visa, you understand, or passport rather, you understand, to travel. And they say, look alike. It was happening in Africa. People were using it to access Europe. And then the internet has actually unraveled many things. And that is why some of the things you are seeing them on the internet, and it's becoming a problem. Now, this problem did not surface today for the first time. Even in 1999, when he was elected, I think Ganifa with me took that matter up, number one. Then number two, before the election, David Ondeyin, an investigative journalist, actually took time to research on that very matter. And he made some startling revelations and then publications alleging the same thing. And I think if there is an allegation on one, what is simply required is that one clears themselves, not to begin to say if further information about them is to be released, it will cause harm. So that was the point I got fed up to entertain the drama.
Okay, the council, talking about this, Peter B. this morning in one of his interviews said one must not be a university graduate to be a leader. But the most important, he mentioned one American president, either George Washington or thereabout, who had only 1 year, crash program, had an informal education, the way he put it. And yet he was elected, and he did, I think, his best. And so, considering all this, why are we on this idea of I went to the Chicago State University and so on? Also, this secondary school you mentioned, one of the persons that was supposed to be his classmate came out to say that he never saw Mr. President in the class for 1 day until he graduated. It was made public.
Well, that is very correct. You do not need to be a graduate, university graduate. You don't need to possess a certificate from any tertiary institution before you can become the president of Nigeria. In fact, the qualification for the highest job and position in Nigeria, being president, requires the least qualification actually, which is possession of either West African school certificate or the first school leaving certificate and some other, having spent some time in certain institutions and attended courses. That is courtesy of the provision of the Constitution. It is the Constitution that has stipulated and given that minimum level to accommodate all kinds and shades of people. But the problem is that, so the answer is yes. You don't need to tell us that you are a university graduate. You don't need to. The Constitution has not provided for it. The Constitution brought the bar very low, very, very low, such that, and the Supreme Court has even held matters by also saying you can use affidavit. Just depose to an affidavit and we'll go along with it. But the problem is this. Once you tell us that this is the certificate, the qualification you are riding upon to achieve that ambition, then we are at liberty to subject it to test. You can bring anyone. If what you are bringing is university certificate, degree, or diploma, then that is what we are going to look at. And once it is found to have been forged or fraudulently obtained, it will lead to not only the disqualification of that candidate, but also disqualification of the party that sponsored him. The person will drop, and going by the provisions of the Electoral Act, the person who scored next highest to him and has also satisfied the constitutional requirement will now be sworn in. So the problem, I think, started during the campaigns, because Peter Obi, in fairness to everybody, raised the bar and standards during his campaign. He had the documentation to back his assertions during his campaign, and clearly some people were being intimidated by his credentials, and so people now started also bringing out things that they had no business bringing out. Now, for Peter Obi, there was a time he threw a challenge, and he said, look, I know my classmates, and my classmates know me, that it's not just about roughly a month or so ago, that even the institution through which he passed, that the present vice chancellor of that institution was his classmate, and that the dean of that his faculty was also his classmate. Just like yours truly here, I passed through now Abia State University when it was Imo State University before the creation of Abia State. The present dean of the Faculty of Law, Professor Ngwakwe, was my classmate. And I know not less than 4 or 5 judges, serving judicial officers, who were also my classmates. In fact, we have our platform, and every year we do our reunion, homecoming. We are going to have the next one between 5th and 7th of January. By then, those from Obodo Oyibo will be back for Christmas. We extend it a little so that they join us and do it. So it's important. If you have said you passed through a particular place, and nobody known to have passed through that place within that period is able to account for your presence within that period, I don't know. I would love to borrow what was the expression used by a comrade when he was closing earlier. That he begins to have certain doubts, about you keep on telling us, look, don't bother about his qualification.
I think
it's just he can deliver.
We don't challenge certain anomalies. I think during the campaign, there was a picture of the president, then the aspirant of the APC, Bola Ahmed Tinubu. There was a picture, a supposed picture of his that was actually shared. That picture was later said to be that of Donald Duke.
Yes.
Donald Duke came out to say, "This is my picture." And
and we were told to keep quiet about
yes,
it.
And the president,
it is not important.
Because people were asking questions. What happened to the first 25 years of this man, or his first 20 years? So to actually, maybe what the handlers and the team of the president had in mind was to actually project something to the effect that the president actually was a young man at the time who grew up in Lagos and all whatnot. They put out that picture there, and
but in fairness, is there any resemblance between?
And then again, that issue came up. And then, if you look at it, you see that the thing that we have to talk about preceded the election. People like Bob George, if you had known him and followed him, he had been so, if he had been ever constant about this very matter, that the president's background is shrouded in a lot of secrecy
and controversy,
unknowable controversies and things you cannot even discern. But I think it is in the interest of the president to come clean, because he belongs to all of us. He's our president. We don't have anybody with that, you understand? He belongs to us, and then his account, his record. And that is why we were also talking about it then during the campaign. Why won't Nigerians be availed information as they have to do with the health status of someone who is aspiring to lead them? We've had this actually through us in a very serious quagmire during the Yaradua days. So it's not a part we must keep repeating. Anyone who wants to be a president must know that he's coming to serve the public. And when you are offering yourself for such a job, it simply requires that those who are coming to govern are very certain information. There shouldn't be any barrier for someone like me trying to know whether President Bola Ahmed Tinubu actually went through that university. And why we are having this issue is that I think if it were to be a school in Nigeria, maybe the matter would have been over by now.
Yes, or the records department of that school would have been pumped overnight.
Perhaps, or that. But then I think if it were to be a school in Nigeria, maybe the matter would have been over. Because I remember vividly the case of former President Muhammad Buhari.
Okay. All right, viewers, we are not going to take another break. We're going to continue. The phone line is now open. You can call and then make your contributions. While you're calling, tell us your name, where you're calling us from, then your contributions. Having said that, because the issue of these certificates may take the whole day, let us also look at this. NLC and TUC suspend planned nationwide strike over removal of fuel subsidy. It is also known nationwide that the NLC and TUC were supposed to embark on a serious strike action today. But after meeting with the federal government late last night, this strike action was suspended. And then I think before we look about this, because on Friday, one of the analysts, Barrister Chukwemeka Wogo, would I say that was a prophecy or what, said it, that it was not going to hold. I disagreed with that because even on Saturday, they refused a meeting with the federal government, even on Sunday, until Monday. Even early morning Monday, they said this strike must go on Tuesday. And they were asking all the state actors to get ready to commence this nationwide on that Tuesday. But unfortunately this morning, the thing is not holding. I don't want to say you are a prophet. After all, the televangelist is here. All right, having said that, let us look at these, the suspension of these act for another 30 days. And after this, as we look at this briefly for 1 minute though, then we are going to look at the agreement reached with the federal government about 14-point agreement. We are going to look at that. So let me start with you, Council, because it was your prophecy. Are you very friendly or close to the president of TUC.
No. Far from it. The truth of the matter is that, just like the historian, if you have bothered to look at precedent and study, then it would be easy, to some reasonable extent, to predict what would happen. Right from when he was a sub-union chairman or leader, I'm talking about Mr. Ajero, yes, the present president of NLC. He was always known to truncate strike actions of the NLC by, at the last minute, pulling out his own sub-union. That has always been there. So it was more like, he had that track record. And also, since he came in, it has not changed. At the last minute, something, whether he is responsible for it or not, but at the last minute, even by Monday when we discussed informally, I told you that, don't worry, that at the last minute, I told him, he was so emphatic that, look, this time around, labor is for real. And I said, we still have more than 24 hours. And this thing came last night. By last night, so like I said, at the last minute, if every other thing had failed, which of course the federal government didn't even need to wield the big stick of contempt against the NLC, they would have gone to that angle. Like I said, it's easy to predict NLC, especially under the present leadership. I'm not close to any of them. I only studied their track record, looked at precedent, and arrived at that conclusion. Even after 30 days, nothing will happen if the federal government does not do that which they have agreed. And if you begin to look at the things they said they have agreed, I don't know, because I don't believe in every day you try to give people fish. Every day you try to give people fish. Why don't you put in place something that will yield fishery, a pond? Then you breed the fish there and it will serve a greater number of people. The so-called palliatives, certainly I, speaking for myself, I'm not in agreement that it is a solution. If we do not fix the refineries, we are not going anywhere. This problem will continue to reoccur. If we do not do something about the power sector, which is presently non-existent, whereby people continue to generate their own power, and in so doing they have to consume so much quantity of fossil fuel in different forms, the problem will continue. Until we're able to stabilize consumption, limit it to vehicles only, then have our refineries running, we will now be able to know if we want to import petrol or petroleum products, what quantity we are importing, what quantity are we producing locally. Last week I was very impressed with the figures and percentages reeled out by Comrade regarding production, both optimum capacity for the refineries and so on. And you discover that even when they are all running optimally, it's still a far cry from
the production.
Yes, but the consumption, yes. However, it would help. There is absolutely no doubt about that. It would help. So we should talk about getting the existing ones back on board, and indeed establishing a refinery, if it is possible, at least one in each geopolitical zone of this country. That's my own take.
All right, comrade.
Yes.
Yeah, you've said it, and this strike has been called.
Not buying vehicles for give palliative 5 billion to governors that nobody can account for. Buy vehicle for workers. Buy buses, distribute it to. That's nothing.
All right,
Put
also,
the money into getting these refineries back.
While talking about this strike, I would also want you to look at the much commented about government cost,
Cost of governance.
cost of governance. I would also want you to look at that, and then because nobody has talked about that, but yet instead we're talking about palliative. After that, we are going to go into just about out of the 15 or 14 point agreement. We are going to look about 3 that affects the workers and also the palliative the federal government talked about. Let's hear you.
Yes, I think when I became aware that Labour was no longer going on strike, I said to one extent it was good, but generally it was quite laughable. Yes, it was funny. Yes. There were grounds, serious one, for which Labour, TUC and affiliate unions threatened to embark on industrial action. And I did say, if you talk about the cost of governance, you cannot be talking about removing fuel subsidy or the subsidy on fuel, and then you are giving National Assembly 70 billion naira for palliative, and that's about 469 percent, 109 senators, and then 360 House of Reps members. Then you give the judiciary 35 billion, and then we give nothing to the workers. I hadn't expected a sort of a dodgy award, but I had expected that the president, in fact, there were other reforms the president ought to have done. When you know that you are not paying, that private sectors, the employees are not that directly in your employment, what you do is to reduce taxation on private sectors, you understand? To also allow them drive so that they can be in business and then break even, then pay workers. But the government needs this, and I think since the inaugural address, to take a very good look at this, since the inaugural address through which the president removed subsidy, other speeches and addresses had been about telling Nigerians to endure.
Stories.
Telling Nigerians to endure. Because it was easy for the president to say we are removing subsidy, but in effect it was hard to remove subsidy. That we later heard that they were now subsidizing through from our back, you understand? But the whole thing points to something that when the administration came to me, yes, you may have plans, you may have things you are articulated, but those things were not thought through, especially that announcement that came.
Are you saying that the band is articulated?
Yes,
he was articulated. That's one of the lighter notes.
When he articulated the subsidy removal thing, he didn't think to do the policy, and that's my personal opinion.
And you are right.
I did say that we are all agreed that subsidy should go, but we believe that it should be phased gradually. When you remove 30% or 40%, you begin to do what? Rebuild the refineries, and then begin to build infrastructure. Even the road we are talking about, we are giving cars to convey workers through mass transit scheme. The roads are not in good condition.
Will the vehicles be flying?
According to MBS, over 70% of the road network in Nigeria is not paved. So where are the roads? Where will the vehicles be plying? You understand? So these are the things the president or the current administration have taken into consideration before he removes subsidy. On the issue of labor, to me, I do not know, and I think people are no longer beginning to take their threats to embark on the strike seriously any longer, because whenever it does appear that they are going to shut down the economy, to tell the president you must come to the table. At the last minute, we hear that it has been resolved. 1 month later, they will start threatening strike.
They will go back.
Understand? It's been back and forth. So
very childish.
Yes, it's been back and forth. Yes, I understand that it is in the interest of labor not to jeopardize, not to undermine, not to endanger the economy, or not to sabotage it. But there has to be a legitimate protest through which you tell the president the hardship you are bringing upon us. You understand? Your economic decisions. You see, we are talking about a regime or an economic regime where the dollar is now trading for over 1,000 naira. You understand? We are talking about over 25% inflation, unemployment over 40%. So how can we address this if we do not tell the government that we are angry and be angry enough? So I think Labour should actually tell us where its bread is buttered. Because yes, I don't understand, because see, if if you have read the president in the independence speech, if you have read his Democracy Day speech, if you have read his national address, when after he removed subsidy, the one he promised us palliative will come and this one and that one. The three speeches have been all about what telling Nigerians to endure. You are telling Nigerians to endure at the time when you are giving the National Assembly 70 billion naira, giving the judiciary 5 billion naira. Now look at the last paragraph of the speech of the president. He thanked the judiciary and thanked God.
Let's not insinuate everything about.
No, I'm not insinuating anything. It is there for the man. He thanked the army. He thanked the soldiers for fighting gallantly. You understand? To safeguard this very nation space. Then he thanked the judiciary and thanked God. He thanked the judiciary for the good they have been doing, and then thanked God and now say happy democracy, happy independence, and it was his maiden address.
Oh, okay.
On a day like that, then it should be a big worry, because if you had read the statement from this same level, it was reflective. Why that of the president, like the old position said, it was aspirational. The president was telling us we are going to import vehicles, we are going to be converting them to CNG. We have actually placed order for the 2 kids. You understand? All these things we are just promises. It is not action. You understand? Now, if you look at this, the speech from the level, you cry for this country. It says Nigeria went to independence. Later, it had a national carrier. As an independent nation in the 1960s, this country had robust railway sector. As an independent country, we even had shipping line. You understand? And we had industries that were working. Unfortunately, all those things have disappeared. And we must also know that when we talk about 1st October, it's not just about 1960. 1st October 1963, Nigeria also became a republic. In addition to being an independent state, we became a republic. Now ask yourself, does that independence really reflect in our politics? If the judiciary independent, is the press independent, then people are the citizens free to express themselves. Now you need to talk about a republic, a system where there is no imposition. People choose who will lead them, not monarchy where a king or somebody who claims to be the absolute Lord begins to do what exerts power. You ask yourself, are these things happening?
All right, are these things happening? That's the question. Right now, to ensure that this meeting or the strike was averted, the federal government held a meeting with the organized labor and agreed on certain things. About this 14 point, we are going to look at just a few of them. Number one, Councillor, I'm coming to you. I want you to hear this and then comment. The federal government grants a wage award of 35,000 naira only to all federal government workers beginning from the month of September, pending when a new national minimum wage is expected to have been signed into law. 35,000 naira. I remember the other time we talked about if this thing is all about the government workers and so on, what about the millions and thousands who are not working, who are unemployed? What about the pensioners? What about the retirees who are at home and so on?
Well, based on statistics, especially if you begin to review from what happened immediately after the Udoji award.
Yes.
That was when the inflation rate began to spiral out of control. Wage increase is not really the best of solutions. But then, can you blame the worker when you make things difficult and unaffordable for him based on his existing salary? The only immediate solution would be wage increase. But in the long run, inflation is doubled, if not tripled. So I will still maintain my stand that wage increase is not the best solution. You could have several options, but then the mark of good leadership is to check of all these options which one is the best. Especially you have to think through the immediate term, short term, medium term, and then ultimately long term. Not solving or appearing to solve the problem today and then after 5 years or even 2 years, you are faced with a hydra-headed monster that you will find difficult. If the government is looking at wage increase, I have said this earlier, it is my personal opinion and I stand by it, that 35,000 is like going to Atlantic Ocean with a cup of salt and telling everybody that you can see, I have a cup of salt. Yes, for a pot of soup, that cup of salt might be too much. But not when you go to the Atlantic Ocean and you go there and throw in even 1 trailer of salt. So, looking at what 35,000 could buy, I don't know where you can get a decent
The 35,000
meal.
is just an addendum. It's just added to what they usually have.
I'm coming, sir. I don't know where you can get a good plate of meal for about 1,000 naira today. And then, would the worker eat only? Is that what he is there for? The Nigerian worker is just, he wakes up in the morning, he eats maybe 1 meal at most. If he is lucky, at most 2 meals. Then he treks to work. His children will not go to school. He will not pay rent, no medicals, and so on and so forth. And then you come to clap for yourself and beat your chest and try to persuade us to see from your perspective that you have done so well for the Nigerian worker. Anything looking at the economy of today and the responsibility of the average parent or family, anything less than 200,000, that is my view. Hold me responsible for this. It is my own view. Anything less than 200,000 minimum wage, we are not addressing the problem. Except and unless and until we go back to now address those problems from the root cause that keep on consuming whatever you give to the Nigerian worker. We've talked about power. We've talked about, he mentioned road. I mentioned generating your own power. The refineries must be up and running.
Okay.
And then, if we are talking about palliative, there is no government, we've agreed on that on this program previously. There is no government anywhere in the world that does not subsidize something for its populace. In the case of Nigeria, I don't think that subsidizing petroleum product would be the best. Let us start by subsidizing food. People are hungry, and when people are hungry, they can do anything. Let's start by subsidizing food. We subsidize power. Then we now go to look at education. Because when the man is worried so much about the education of his children, you don't expect him to be productive in the office. You walk in and he is like this because he's thinking of school fee. Why can't we make education free? At least everywhere, be it primary school, private school, public school, primary to secondary, because that is what the Constitution recognizes now. That up to yes, use the secondary education as basic, and then greatly subsidizing tertiary education. But we must make up to secondary schools. That is the SS3. Everything from beginning to SS3 will be free, while university or tertiary institution education will be greatly subsidized.
All right, comrade.
Yes.
Talking about this, it's not just about. It's not as if it's fully implemented yet. They said a minimum wage committee shall be inaugurated within 1 month from the date of this.
I will not see the light of day.
So you are
for
talking.
the next
We are
3
talking
years.
about committee. You know how committees in Nigeria work.
You remember very well when we had the ASU strike that lasted for months, nearly 8 months or 10 months. Later we had the BRICS committee. Before that one there was another committee. Later they set up a committee, people by some chancellors, vice chancellors, and them. They were addressing what the same thing for which you set up a committee. You now divide the committee into subcommittees. Later you scrap the committee and inaugurate a new committee to begin to look into the same matter. Then later, if the committee has done the work and then enter the report, nobody cares to go to the report again if they had not issued the white paper. So it's been like that.
And you now set up a committee.
And then I remember that the same level cried that the government set up a committee, but that they have not been having meeting at that committee level, this same level now. When Tinubu was sworn in, if you remember very well, before 30 days in office, they threatened to go on strike because of the subsidy removal, and they said it had affected workers' ability to mobilize and then go to work. The president was actually calling them for a meeting. They threatened and they said they would go on a strike. And one of the things they said was that after the president constituted a committee and then a subcommittee, that they had been ignored. So now we are now seeing this committee. Now, remind you also that this is just temporary. This very strike realization for 30 days now. We do not know what will actually happen. And then this committee we will get to see the mandate and then the objectives of the committee, the terms of reference, and then every other thing. But then I can assure you that these two, I'm not being a prophet now, but these two will not even achieve much going forward. Labour will still come to tell you tomorrow that government has been involving in one underhanded practice of policy.
All right, because of our time, let us also look at this, the final one before we go. Though I would have wanted us also to look at the federal government commits to pay 25,000 per month for 3 months. For 3 months starting from October 2023 to 15 million households, including vulnerable Nigerians. And we just, 1 second, let's look at that. 25.
You see,
for 6
we politicize everything.
Yes. For 3 months.
Yes. President again has shown that this is stomach infrastructure for members of certain political party. That because how do you determine the vulnerable families?
It was a recent palliative that came to Abia State.
Where did you see a grave?
Even in my ward, it's just the members of
Did
the
you see a grave? In one state, a ward chairman smashed the face of a serving commissioner because of one of the southwestern states, either in Ondo or one of those southwestern states. Beat up, it's there on the public domain on the internet. And then later on, he came to give the ward chairman came to give his own side of the story, that the commissioner brought her son and the aide to attack him in his house because he insisted, where is the bag of rice for the party? And that is what. So, anytime you're talking of all these things, it's like trader money. When Sibanjo will come to Ariaria to give trader, who does he know in Ariaria? What is the criteria for determining who benefits and who does not benefit? So these are the things I said I do not support, because personally I view it as an attempt to directly bribe the people into keeping quiet rather than continuing along that way. Why don't we try to rejig? Why don't we try this paradigm shift? We continue doing something in the same way and expect a different result. It cannot work. So let's try a different method. Fix the problem from the root. Don't keep on. Somebody has malaria. You've not treated the malaria. Every day you keep on giving him paracetamol because you say he's having fever and aches and pains all over the body.
Treating symptoms.
Yeah, you treat symptoms. That is wrong. We'll never get it right.
Okay, comrade, just for 30 seconds, please. Look at that before we take the final lesson. 25,000 naira per month for 3 months.
Will the problem go away after 3 months?
After 3 months.
I was coming to that. I said there is no sustainability. You understand? It's not even with the problem go away. With inflation later, with price inflation and the food crisis, will they also let up? Those are the things we should be looking at. Now, it's not even a stopgap measure. I don't even know what that means. I'm now coming back to the same question. with what record is the government relying? Is the government going to carry out this conditional cash transfer? And when you say 15 million vulnerable Nigerians, I begin to get worried, because 15 million Nigerians don't even come near to the actual figure of those who are vulnerable. The NBS said 133 million Nigerians are multidimensionally poor.
In every direction,
in every
aspect of poverty, they have benefited. In every aspect of poverty,
they are poor multidimensionally. Educationally, they are poor. Financially, they are poor. Economically, they are poor. Socially, they are poor.
Spiritually,
in terms of where they live and everything. Of course, you cannot be in that condition and be spiritually balanced.
Yes,
so now, we are still talking about 15 million persons. Remember also that was the moment Muhammad Buhari promised to lift 100 million Nigerians out of poverty. When he was sworn in 2015, 76 million Nigerians were poor. But by the time he left office in 2023, he created over 50 million poor Nigerians in addition. Meaning he created half the number he was trying to do, lift out of poverty.
or more than that, because yes.
Now the implication is that I'm aware that we have had certain economic policies that did not go well. One, the cashless policy. This one took a huge toll on the masses, both in terms of standard of living and family finances that shrank. Yet, this political administration went so fast to remove subsidy, when the people have not even recovered from the previous economic hardship. And that is why if you look at the economic landscape, it's very volatile. Dollar is traded, and the president is busy increasing interest rate point. You understand? And to me, I begin to ask myself, what is the basis upon which foreign investors will come here to do business? And at the same time, council is always talking about it. We must not even be talking about our refinery. You understand? Our refineries. Why can't we have modular refineries? I know that they have a board, local content board. Why can't they issue licenses to local refiners and then allow them to come on stream?
Because those are government via competition.
We cannot wait. We cannot continue to wait for one Dangote or the other. So to me, I think the federal government saying they will be giving money. Remember, that was how they wasted money on feeding school children when there was a lockdown. So a lot of things happen in this country. And
when that minister was asked to produce the record of those that they gave the money to, she said it's in one office, and by the weekend, before the next working day, they will produce it. That place was gutted by fire.
All right, let us take this final one before we go. The federal government should urge state government through the National Economic Council and Governors Forum to implement wage award for their workers. Similar consideration should also be given to local government and private sector workers. And then talking about the state government to be involved in these wage they are talking about. Remember the 30,000 minimum wage, but as we speak, it has not been implemented in Niger State as we speak. So council talking about urging the state, how is it going to work?
Yes, in fairness to the states, I really pity them. The federal government, by virtue of the overweighted and imbalanced provisions of the Constitution, especially regarding the items in the exclusive legislative list, is sitting on the common patrimony, inheritance of the entire nation, getting everything. And then when it goes to negotiate, it negotiates for the worker, the Nigerian worker. In fact, what they mean, the person they are referring to is the federal worker. Whenever they finish, we will now come to the second level of the problem, be it strike or whatever, because the governors will tell you they have agreed up there. They did not call us when they were negotiating. The president has said, I am going to give additional 35,000. Has he made it available to the state governments to give to their workers? If not, then what is the fate of the worker at the state level? What is the fate of the worker at the local government level? We are not even talking about those involved in the private sector. So what are we talking about? That's why you begin to see why I say I do not personally subscribe to wage increase. Every time wage increase, the only thing is that it is part of labor politics. Those in labor politics use it to beat their chest and make their workers see them as having achieved something. No, they've not achieved anything as far as I'm concerned.
All right, comrade.
Yes.
On this, talking about urging the state to also implement this minimum wage.
With which money?
I was even beating more the local government councils than the states. Council was beating the states. I am beating, Father, I have beaten a lot of sympathy. Because we are talking about a tier of government that is not even independent, that does not exist as it should function, even when it's right in the constitution. You understand? We are talking about a place where you have the joint account. And then we've seen that some of the governors, over a half of them, have not been able to implement the minimum wage template. We are talking about the template of 30,000 naira. Meaning if you have a cleaner, if you have even clerks, they should earn upwards of 30,000 naira. But unfortunately, that has not been actually domesticated. We are still having that agitation. And now this one is also coming up. But I should also think it should be in the interest of all the states to expand the independent source of revenue. A state like Abia, for example, cannot keep telling us that it does not earn up to 3 billion naira in a month.
As you mean as IGR?
Yes, as IGR.
Okay.
To me, it's not acceptable. When you look at flying revenue, and when I mean flying revenue, I'm talking about the ones you get from these commercial vehicles, the ones you get from the motor parks and the rest of them. It is enough to address some of the problems we are having, including take care of infrastructure, then pay workers. But government has been on serious. Whether you are talking about the past and to an extent even the present. So I think it is in the interest of the governors to expand the revenue base of their states so that they can now be able to do what, take care of the working conditions of the workers there. Right. If not so, we'll be having this problem. But then, many governors, the structure of Nigeria has actually bred corruption, that the governors are sleeping, waiting for the
allocation.
Yes, allocation. Which scholars now jokingly call feeding bottle fertilizers. Every month they are just there, waiting. In most cases, in the north, you see that there are vast arable lands that are not even being cultivated.
Okay. All right, our wonderful viewers, this is the march we're going to take today. But before we go, Council, from you, I want to know what's your final take before we leave on the issues discussed.
Let's fix the problems, target the root cause, address the problem at that level. All these first aid measure and treatment of symptoms will not get this nation anywhere. We cannot continue doing the same thing over the years and expect different results. It cannot work. Let's try a paradigm shift.
Let's try a paradigm shift. All right, comrade.
Yes, I think for us to get things working again, government need to put on its thinking cap.
Does it have any?
So that before when you begin to articulate policies, you also begin to consider the masses. Anything government is doing, the people should come first, should be uppermost in their mind. And that is how to govern in public interest and then govern. That is what they call pro bono public, for the good of the public.
All right, our wonderful viewers, that's the march we're going to take today. Remember, I will always tell us at the end of any of these programs, I will always tell you, remember that Nigeria is our country, Abia is our state. And we ain't going to run away from it. That is to say, that our leaders, you know what to do it. And then, remember, all of us go to the same market. If the National Assembly members will go home each in a month with about millions of naira, and then these other workers are going home with a sum of 30,000, 20,000, and all of us go to the same market, what is that supposed to mean? So govern us well, if I should borrow African China's advice in his music. Govern us well, lead us well, police well. Wherever you find yourself, make sure you're contributing to the growth of this nation. Just like Comrade said, people first. It is important. Having said that, I am your Command Chinedu Madele. Remember, we'll continue tomorrow. We'll be in Nigeria today. We'll be back again also to look at other topical issues as it concerns our country. Keep watching Living Television. Keep watching Living TV. There are more interesting programs that will be coming your way even after now. Thank you and bye for now.